Just an amazing, cool story. She's going to kind of go through the whole thing today and tell us a lot. And her answer to what sets apart successful investors at the end of the interview was one of my favorite I've
All
ever
right, so I'm
heard.
just going to do a voiceover on this video and parts of this video.
Especially, by the way, make sure
Uh,
you also listen for
this is
the
us hanging
steps to
a
make the
bonus
right
room
financing. That alone could change a lot of your
upstairs in
life
this
and what you
house
need
we've
to
been
do
working
for
on.
investing down the road, buy,
Um,
rehab, rent, refinance,
this thing kind of
etc.
fought us a little bit. The
Love that. So stick to
carpenters were not
stay
that great
tuned
on
for
this
that.
house. The
But
spray
before
foam
we get to that, this
guys
is today's
were, they just made a huge mess, and we spent a lot of time
today's
scraping
quick
spray
tip
foam off
is
and
if you have
stuff like
not
that. So
checked
this
out the
was
brand new Bigger
uh,
Pockets Inside
not a
Series, it's
great day
amazing. We have this new
for
Bigger
us hanging
Property
because it
Insights on there
just,
where
like
you
I
can
said, it
read
went
like
slow and we
30 different
followed every
details on
single
like
piece, it
previous
seemed like.
rents and what the current rent would be, what the market's been like. It's really
But
like
I'll just
Bigger
break
Pockets
in
Insights is designed to help you make
every
your
once in a while
best
if I feel like I need
choices
to
on like
explain
what
something
market
about
to
what we're
invest
doing.
in, what neighborhood to buy in, and what property and what that property is going to likely do in the future. It's really, really cool. It's part of our Bigger Pockets Pro membership, and we just launched this whole Insights thing
So you can see
2 months
Brandon is
ago.
holding that
Go
piece
check
up.
it out. Biggerpockets.com
Forgot to bring a ladder upstairs. I keep these little
/insights. That's
4-foot
Bigger
ladders around
Pockets
when we're hanging.
Insights.
Very
I think
handy.
you'd be pretty impressed.
We
It's going to help your
Where the
business
box
grow.
was
So
at,
that
there was
is
no good way to
today's
mark it because of the spray
tip.
foam. And on this
And
first piece, there was no place to write down the measurement really, or we
okay,
may
is
have
there anything you
forgotten
hate about
actually.
managing rental
I
properties?
don't
Oh,
remember,
the
but
tons of emails
so
from
I get the
back and forth
4-foot
with people
ladder and stand up on there. Brandon was having a hard time getting
busy buying
screws
real
in
estate
down there
agents. I
because
mean,
the
it
box was
just seems like
holding it
you
off and the
so
screws
hard to
kept
schedule
popping.
time for
So I had to
plans.
run and get a
You can't
ladder,
always maybe pay for the extra
get to where I
time
could
to
see
find
above the
stuff.
board to find the
Renting
box and
elsewhere
cut
just
it
don't
out.
need all that hassle. So check
These
this
little
out. In
4-foot
this video, we're
ladders are
talking
pretty
about rent ready
handy.
a lot. There's an amazing online
While
platform
Brandon's still
that
working off the benches,
today
screwing off
they
the
got a
ceiling,
brand new
I can get
feature
on
for
the
you.
ladder,
Digital
take
lease
measurements for the
signing.
next
Yeah,
piece, and have it ready.
you and your tenants can send and sign
A lot
leases
easier to move
directly from
around.
Rent
Like
Ready
if I
themselves.
had another
So
set of
it takes
benches,
less
I
than
would
60
probably
seconds
still
to
just use the
upload and to
ladder.
send a lease signature
It's
request
just a
to your
lot easier to
tenant.
move around.
Then all your tenant has to do is open their Rent Ready app, read the lease, and sign it. Easy, simple, and saves everyone time and money. And best of all, in
You can
celebration
see
of Rent
Brandon
Ready
right
and the
here is
lease signing
scraping
feature,
spray foam
we've
off
got a
so before we can
fantastic
glue
bonus for our
and
listeners.
hang
A
this
whole
piece.
year of Rent Ready for only $1. When you use promo code BPFall, it's like one word, BPFall. And don't worry, Rent Ready is an all-inclusive service, so you get everything: online rent collection.
Are good with people and you can make people trust you, then you can be great at real estate as like having your license and being an agent. But if you are just doing it slower and you still have a
So I had to run
full-time job,
downstairs real
hopefully
quick
it'll
and
take
grab
that
a
you'll
piece
be
of
able to
lumber
get
and
involved with the MLS and
my
make it
skill
worth
saw.
it. I think it's much better to find an agent
Because
who
the
is
carpenters,
providing
when
those
they
services
framed
and
this one,
hustling and that's your source
they
of
put these
leverage and
top ceiling
access over your
joists
time. So it really depends on your situation.
Yeah,
on
Shelby,
one
being a real
side
estate agent is nothing
of
but
the
putting everything on the
rafters
internet and that's it, right?
on
Like,
Oh my
the
God.
slope part of the ceiling, and on the other side, they're on the other side of the rafters
I want to
on a
ask the same
bunch of
question
them.
to
And
you,
it
David,
just
because I know
happens I
you and I
didn't
have had a
catch it
million conversations about this.
when we broke
Should
that
an
very first
investor
piece we put up.
get a real estate license
It
to
was
invest in real
good
estate?
on one side and too long on the
And
other.
it's the same answer
So I had to
every
put a
time.
piece of dead wood in there behind there, and that's what we're
If they
doing now.
said, if you said, should an investor get their appraisal license and learn how to do appraisal? Should an investor become a general contractor and learn how to fix a house? Should an investor become a property
Good carpenters
manager?
can make or break a job. If they follow their layouts and everything's straight and square,
And the best part of the business of
things
real
can
estate
go
is
so
how
much
easily
easier.
it can be leveraged. It is the fact that easier
I don't have a
than
video
most
of it, but we
things,
hung
you
a
can
house here
leverage
recently.
out
We hung
big
the whole
chunks of
house
it.
in
Like if I
15
decided
hours.
I wanted to create
Uh,
a brand of clothing and I wanted to make jeans. It's a lot
The
of
guy
hard
framed it
work to
himself, and
figure
when he
out
told me that, I was a
who's
little
gonna
worried. But
design
I'm
the
telling you, he
jeans
was
and where are they
meticulous,
gonna
and
be manufactured, how are they
everything
gonna
was
be
near
marketed, who's
perfect,
gonna sell them.
and it
It is
just
a
went
lot
so
of
much
time
faster.
that you have to spend to build up the support system that you would need to eventually make money from jeans. It's not like that with real estate. I just bought a house. Who's going to manage it for me? There's a ton of people saying, ooh, 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 me. Let me do it. You're a lead to them, right? I want to find a house. How can I find someone to help me? There's a ton of Shelbys that are like, ooh, 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 me. I want to help you find that house because their business is based on you. You become the in-demand person when you're the investor. It's just kind of silly to me that people would say, I want, even though it's so easy to go out there and find someone who's probably better than me at doing this part of it, I want to learn how to do it myself. And I'm gonna let
So
Shelby
what we
answer
just did there was we
that
took a
two
piece of
questions I'm
a
gonna ask you.
rip that off of another
Well,
board,
first of all, I was gonna say you
and
said
we
that there's a ton of Shelbys
it
and
had a good factory
there's
in,
one.
and so we put it up against the first board we hung, and that gives me a spot to measure to.
But besides that, I totally
If the thing was even remotely straight, I could just measure down there on that one end. I wouldn't have to do that. But since it's not straight at all, I need something to go off of. I can't just guess. I can't cut it the same measurement as it is on the other end, because
all that stuff can be.
you won't really be able to see it on the video. But when we got to this other end,
That's what we're trying to do with systems, right? Making sure it actually gets done.
this whole room is off almost 3 inches.
David was talking about with automation, that's the next thing. So it's like document first and then
I always rip my
automate
first
everything
board
that
on the
needs to
ceiling.
go
That way,
through
when I
anything,
stagger them,
anything, like
if the room is out of
reminders,
square,
CRMs,
it
all
kind
of
of
those
squares the
sort of
room
things
up.
will save your life,
I
because your
mean,
brain is not trustworthy.
It's
doesn't
not
really
at
square it
all.
up, but it makes it easier. So, like, if you take 2 inches off your first piece, by the time you get to the other end, if you didn't take 2 inches off your first piece, by the time you get to the other end, if it's out of square, you may have a gap. And then you have to come back and cut a little piece, fill that in, and that's aggravating. So, and here we are again. We're using a bigger piece this time, just to temporarily get measurements off of. It's the best way I found. Sometimes we chalk a line, but that cannot be, or that is not accurate all the time.
Yeah, that's
This
all the
way
time,
works
man.
pretty
Like,
good.
People say stuff and I'm like, I'm never gonna remember that. So my system is I text myself my email, like I email myself, because I know that if it gets on my email, I can flag it for follow-up and I will not miss an email. But if I get an inquiry from, Instagram or Facebook or all of these different systems, like I have to screenshot it and email it to myself, because that is my one source that I will not lose stuff. So
yeah, that's great. Yeah. All right. So you got the systems, and you got to automate them, and then lastly, you said people. Let's talk about that for a minute.
It just really sucks when the carpenters don't take the time to do their job right, and then we have to fight it like this, because basically this ceiling should have taken, an hour. And I'm not exactly sure what the total time was on it, but it was longer than an hour. And this whole room, it gets worse as we go. These slope sides wind up being really bad, and we fight those too. And it basically added a day to the hanging, is what it wound up doing.
They need to do the DISC and the Myers-Briggs assessments, and I know, David, you're familiar with DISC. Do you guys know Myers-Briggs?
I haven't worked with Myers-Briggs.
We use the disc more commonly, but why don't you share what they?
I could buy, and I ended up getting that one as well as a duplex, because he just didn't want to be a landlord anymore. And then Courthouse foreclosures are really, really big for us right now.
Can we pause there real quick? So, that's so good stuff. No, this is great. Can you re-say real quick, because I want everyone to listen to what you just said here about the for rent sign in the yard. Notice that she didn't say the for sale sign in the yard. Explain that again.
Yeah, so for rent signs are my favorite thing to see, especially the crappy handwritten ones, because I'm like, you're not a formal landlord. You probably hate this. So I saw the for rent and I called it and I was like, hey, just inquiring about this property, and I was wondering if you might want to sell instead of rent. And the guy was basically like, please, I don't want it, and I have another one that I want off my hands. So, and of course it takes a lot of calls before you find that one guy who's willing to sell, but they're out there.
Yeah, I love that strategy.
I guess Brandon got hot.
It goes to this analogy I've used before, but I'll say it again now. It's like, sometimes when you wake up with a headache, you don't think about taking medicine right away, and so you just have this headache that's just kind of like dull and brewing for a while, and it gets worse and worse throughout your day, and you just never think of taking medicine.
Yeah, so here we are, we're using another scrap piece to get the measurements.
Until then your wife walks in the room, or her husband, or whatever, and just said, hey, did you take some medicine? And you're like, I haven't even thought about that, right? The same thing is true for rentals. It creeps on these landlords over time, and they hate it more and more and more, because they're not good at systems. They're not good at processes. They don't have people. They write handwritten signs in the yard, and they probably inherited the property from something or whatever, right? So they've got a headache, and they don't even think about the fact that they could sell it, or what, until somebody says, hey, I know you had this property for rent, but any chance you want to sell? And if not that property, they might have other properties. I mean, every landlord's got a property. I would say almost every landlord has a property in their portfolio that they would consider selling, whether it's not the one you called about or not. So, now all of a sudden your options are millions of options out there of potential properties, and you can go Craigslist, you can look on Facebook Marketplace for rent.
So I'm not proud about it. You saw me just mark that board and cut it and drag it out of the way. Just totally goofed and cut it backwards. We wound up using the board. It didn't go to waste, but just one more thing that wound up pissing me off this day.
Looking actively instead of passively. And I know a lot of investors now are obsessed with the tech option.
I mean, I could cut that out, I guess, and you guys would never know I screwed up. But it's like my dad said, if you never screw up, you're not trying.
We're also doing consulting to help agents on how to work with investors because we found that they need it. And more deals for sure, but I've decided, people ask me this all the time, they're like, why aren't you into apartments? Why are you doing these small deals, like getting into bigger deals? And so what I've been doing a lot is I've been reflecting about on what makes me happy, and the idea of that doesn't make me happy. What I like to do is I like to be really creative with projects. So I'm really enjoying flips lately, and I'm really enjoying Airbnbs, and I want to start a quirky Airbnb business where each Airbnb is like a complete experience as opposed to just, you know, a cute thing.
That's so good. Have you read the book The Power of Moments?
I haven't.
That's so good. Yeah, that's your list. I recommend it to everybody listening. I need to actually get those two guys, Chip and Dan Heath. They're like brothers and they're really smart. But anyway, they wrote a book called The Power of Moments, and it's so good. It's all about like those special moments, like whether it's on vacation, whether it's at Disneyland, whatever. They don't remember the mundane and the boring. People remember the magical moments of life. And so it's all about how to incorporate more of those magical moments in life. And so like quirky Airbnbs are a good example of that. People will remember, like, dude, there was a bright pink telephone. Like, it was crazy. You know, like,
So once again, I'm having to cut a piece of dead wood. Now at this point, since everything was crooked on the other end, it could be that this joist was crooked, or it could just be that now everything's crooked and it's just impossible to line anything up. Who knows? But had to put another piece of dead wood up there.
All right, so next, I want to move into the next segment of the show, which we lovingly refer to as our Deal Deep Dive. Hey, it's Brandon. I want to take a quick break from this podcast to invite you to this week's Bigger Pockets webinar, which is an online class. And this week is going to be something that's really, really popular around Bigger Pockets: how to buy small multifamily properties. Because look, small multifamily properties changed my life, and they can be one of the best real estate investment vehicles out there, especially those who are fairly new to real estate. There's so many benefits to buying small multifamily properties, which is why this week...
Because I figured you guys would ask. Okay, so we have several Airbnbs that are similarly located and sized.
So here you can see Brandon putting the glue on. We do glue and screw everything, no nails whatsoever. I do not allow nails on my jobs. They just destroy the board. They leave these huge dimples you can't get rid of. Don't use nails. Gluing does slow things down a little bit, but in the long run, especially since I finished this too, it's worth it to me. I have not been called back to fix a nail pop. I don't know, 2 or 3 years I've been using glue. It's just far better.
But it is. I mean, it's crazy. It's great numbers, especially since like property management for Airbnb, because obviously I can't do that. It's anywhere from 25. We're down to 20% because once you have X amount, then they'll drop the management fee. We're down to 20%. But so even that cash flow accounts for the 20% property management, the 2 times a month lawn care, all of the utilities that we have to pay, and we're still walking away with.
And so apparently that joist was crooked, because you can see I put a piece of dead wood up on the side closest to the camera earlier, and then I just went and put a piece behind it. So that joist more than likely was crooked.
No, you have to account for the property management, the repairs and maintenance and all that. Now, hopefully with the B, you have fewer repairs and maintenance, but things will still break, and I'm sure you're accounting for that. And like, you account for all the actual charges you will get long term, even if they don't happen every single month regularly, and you get the actual pure cash flow that's gone through the fire and came out the other side. And that's the way you get real estate.
I'll move the camera here in a minute, but I probably should have went ahead and moved it. This is not a great view.
Turnover frequently, because then we have a cleaning crew, you know, our property managers walking in and making sure that the property is not distressed. And then also, if you think about it, Airbnbs, generally people come in at night, they drop their bags, they go out to eat, they crash, and then they leave. So if you think about the wear and tear on a property, it, in theory, is significantly less than a long term.
Yeah, that's good. I love Airbnb. I'm like, it sucks like someplace like with COVID. Obviously, that hurt a lot of the Airbnb industry.
The idea is to do that from in-person meetings and masterminds. So by talking to people in different groups that he was in, they gave him ideas to do the things like getting on TV and starting the TikTok that have all 10x his business. So our advice to you is to join a group of people. Find a mastermind, find a RIA, find a Bigger Pockets meetup, whatever it is, but get around people that think different than you. Get out of the virtual world, get into the real world. Share, be transparent, be vulnerable with what's going on in your life, and take in some of the advice you get, and it just may be what you've been needing to get over the hump that you're facing.
So good, man. I love it. Well, that said, before we finish show with Ryan, so online reputation management company Reputation.com, they've analyzed its database of 3 million customer reviews of more than 70,000 multifamily properties to compile this list of the best properties and the best property management companies. So Reputation.com's 2020 Property Management Reputation Report analyzed actual customer feedback from each property to gauge the overall sentiment. The report assigns residential properties a reputation score based on an analysis of reviews spanning thousands of residents across the U.S., a metric that has proved increasingly vital. The report reveals which properties lead the pack on key dimensions of the resident experience, as expressed in the unfiltered voice of the customer. The findings underscore the importance of reputation experience management as a key element of the property's strategy to increase its external reputation and improve the overall experience for its customers. So here's the deal. Go check out the report yourself at Reputation.com/property management. So Reputation.com's platform helps your business collect reviews, get found online, and grow your business. A better online reputation means more tenants and customers for your business. Again, check it out, Reputation.com/property management. Do you want to invest in real estate, but you live in a market where it's difficult to profit? Or maybe you just want to turbocharge your cash flow in order to scale your portfolio as quickly as possible with low money down. In careful short-term rentals actually can accomplish these goals really well. The Short-Term Shop, the nation's premier short-term vacation rental investment acquisition firm, has connected investors with over $100 million in cash flowing short-term rental assets in 2020
side of things, because it just impacts all of those businesses. You know, if I put out good social media content, like I said, I can raise money to go flip more houses or to go buy rentals. It gets more people for our tax company and all these other things. So for me now, with the businesses kind of established and, you know, running themselves, I'm not too involved with them. I can work on the big picture funnel. Like, I know you love funnels, Brandon. But it's like the funnel is the content and the personal brand. How do I funnel them in to the rest of the ecosystem? And it's like, there's nothing, you can't delegate content. You know, it's like, it's me.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm spending most of my time on these days.
And how do you get people that you can trust? I mean, like that's the hardest thing for most people when they're thinking about, I want to delegate more, I want to hire more. Like, how have you, like, what's that journey been like for you, like bringing in the right people to run those different divisions, I guess you could call it?
Yeah, so we were talking about this a little beforehand. I actually hired a business coach earlier this year, in January, because I was like, look, we're getting pretty big. We've been winging it this whole time, just figuring it out as we go along. Let's try and get somebody who's actually like some corporate structure. Because I think a lot of us entrepreneurs, we don't come from a corporate background. We're just winging it. And so he kind of gave us some structure. A great book that I recommend is Traction. And that's kind of what he teaches, the principles on traction. And so he came in and said, well, Ryan, you've got these different businesses. You're going to need different department heads for each business. And then, in fact, for me, I need somebody who's overlooking all the businesses as well. So basically, I need a COO.
So I thought I was doing good here myself. Again, I should cut this out so you don't see how stupid I am, but we actually found out here is that this piece was over a little bit on my flat down on the ends, I think, and we had to take it back down and fix it. Didn't take but a second, but it's still frustrating. Well, that's about it for this portion of this video. I don't even remember now if I filmed us doing the slopes and the walls and everything, but hope you guys enjoyed it, and stay tuned for more of these videos. It's time for us to go to lunch.